Hi, I'm Rod Pry, the director of the Pennsylvania State Sunday School Association, and this is our weekly International Sunday School Lesson Preview. This is the preview of the lesson for Sunday, July the 4th. This week we are concluding the current unit of lessons entitled Jesus Teaches About Faith. And this week's lesson is entitled Attitude of Gratitude, with scripture from the Old Testament book of Leviticus and the Gospel of Luke. We'll be looking at those scriptures in just a moment, but first a question for you. What do you think is the deadliest and most feared disease in the world today? Well, over the past year, the answer would certainly be the coronavirus. After all, over 3.5 million people have died worldwide from COVID during the past year. But as deaths and infections from the coronavirus continue to reduce, the answer for many people will once again be cancer. But back in Jesus' day, the answer would have been leprosy. Today, we know that leprosy is caused by bacteria that is spread by long-term contact with people who already have the disease. You don't get a leprosy by just casually touching or passing by someone with the disease. Most people who are infected don't even get any symptoms because their immune system fights off the infection. And today, most cases of leprosy occur in India, Brazil, and Indonesia. But back during Bible times, leprosy was greatly feared. In fact, the Mosaic Law even dictated how people with the disease were to be treated. And that's where today's lesson begins, with verses from Leviticus chapter 13, verses 45 and 46. Those verses say this: anyone with such a defiling disease, talking about leprosy, must wear torn clothes, let their hair be unkempt, cover the lower part of their face and cry out, "Unclean, unclean." As long as they have the disease, they remain unclean. They must live alone. They must live outside the camp. After this short background information from the Old Testament, the lesson then shifts to the Gospel of Luke, chapter 17, beginning with verse 11 that says, "Now on his way to Jerusalem, Jesus traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. As he was going into a village, 10 men who had leprosy met him. They stood at a distance and called out in a loud voice, 'Jesus, Master, have pity on us.' And it goes on to say that when Jesus saw them, he said, 'Go, show yourselves to the priest.' And as they went, they were cleansed." Wow, can you just imagine that? It would be like people today who had the serious COVID disease or cancer meeting Jesus and him simply saying a word and the disease was gone. Certainly, if something like that happened, a person who was healed should have been ecstatic. They had a potentially deadly disease, but now they were healed. But what happened to those 10 lepers as they left Jesus? Verses 15 and 16 say, "One of them, when he saw that he was healed, came back, praising God in a loud voice. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him, and he was a Samaritan." Understandably, Jesus asked, "Were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Has no one returned to give praise to God except this foreigner?" Then he said to him, "Rise and go. Your faith has made you well." The title of today's lesson is Attitude of Gratitude. Certainly, this one man, a Samaritan, was grateful. But why weren't the other 9? Were they just too busy celebrating? Did they go to see their family and friends? Did they just forget how they were healed and where the healing came from? Looking back today, we wonder why all 10 weren't more thankful. But before we get too judgmental, we'd better stop and look at all the many blessings that each of us have today. Where did those blessings come from? They came from God. And each of us need to ask ourselves, am I truly thankful and grateful for all of my blessings? Everything that we have, everything that we are has come from God. He has entrusted these things to us. And in far too many cases, we tend to be like those 9 ungrateful lepers. We just go our way thinking, look what I did, look what I have. But without God's blessing on your life, you would have nothing. So stop and think, as the old song says. Count your blessings, name them one by one. And then thank God for each and every one of those blessings. Make an attitude of gratitude your way of life. Say thank you to everyone that you can throughout the day. And always remember that the true source of everything that you have is God. And say thank you to Him each and every day of your life. I'm Rod Pry for the Pennsylvania State Sunday School Association. Thank you for being with me today. I hope you'll join me again next week as we begin a new unit of lessons entitled Faith and Salvation, with lessons from the book of Romans.